Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Robots, Rework, and ROI, Optimizing Construction Operations with Drones. My name is Jackie Gilbo, Director of Marketing at Skycatch, and I'll be your host for this webinar. Today, we're going to talk about the industry as a whole, the opportunity for you as a user or as a business owner, and the ROI one can experience through various drone applications on a construction site. At the end, we will leave time for questions. Please enter them at any time during the webinar in the chat window, as I'll be monitoring them as they come in. So a brief introduction of who we are. Skycatch has been innovating in the RTK UAV space, where we've actually patented a product that we call SkySync, which is the process of locating the camera in space using RTK networks, and therefore replacing the need for ground control points. We've also created the world's first integrated GNSS and edge compute module, which delivers the fastest time to data, all without needing to connect to internet, cellular, or network connectivity to receive 2D maps or 3D point clouds. So our presenter today is my colleague, Pryor, who is the founding engineer at Skycatch and now serves as our Enterprise Solutions Manager. He has specialties in implementing tailored solutions for the enterprise clients in mining, construction, utility, and energy industries. So without further ado, take it away, Will.
Great, thanks so much, Jackie. Appreciate the introduction, and thanks to everybody who's joining. You can see here, this is me on site with one of our great partners, Komatsu, and actually I'm on a site today, so you'll have to excuse us for some little background noise, but stick with it. We'll keep it short, very high level, and I think just as an overview, we're going to talk about what the state of using drones is in construction today. Having been in the industry for about 6 years. We've seen a lot of maturity, and in fact, among all the commercial applications that are out there, you'll find that drones are some of the most mature applications. So again, with the title of this webinar being Robots, Rework, and ROI, we're basically going to talk about the various different use cases that our customers find using drone data, really at all different phases of the project lifecycle. So I'm going to start with a couple of quotes from industry leaders, friends of ours. Looking at the state of the industry here. So let's look at drones in construction in 2019. So Tristan Randall from Autodesk, says drones have made it cost effective to get huge amounts of data on what's happening on the construction site. I think a big part of what we see drones are doing is drones are bringing a quantified measurement to things that used to be really shoot from the hip type of measurements, just eyeball something. How much quantity has been installed, how much earth do I have to move? Now we can very easily apply big data principles to managing our job sites. There's a multitude of tools out there that can be used to help us sort of use this data. And there's really low-hanging fruit too, which I'll go over later. Now from Mortensen, communication is a key item on job sites. I think we know that. For those who are on the call in the construction industry, of course we see that lots of time are spent with meetings, just resetting expectations with the owners, with subcontractors, and with our colleagues. And what the drone data does is it gives us something to use, basically have a common operating picture. It's something that we can all have a shared vision of what's happening on site, and it really reduces finger pointing and increases accountability. Now, I brought up a stat from the U.S. Census Bureau here, and that I thought was quite interesting. The size of the construction market on an annual basis is $1.3 trillion. That was a 2017 figure from the U.S. Census Bureau, and a figure from Forbes put $160 billion wasted due to inefficiency on job sites. Now, I bring this up actually for this specific reason. We can see this is a 12% figure, right? 12% of that $1.3 trillion is being wasted due to inefficiency. Things like waiting for deliveries to happen, or things that can be improved on site. Now, with a typical general contractor operating at a 3 to 4% margin on project budgets, that's actually far less than this savings that can be realized. So the takeaway here is that by applying some of the principles that I'm going to talk about later in the webinar to your construction projects, what you can see is significant potential for increasing your margins over what the industry standard is, right? Imagine going to from a 3 to 4x margin to a 3 or 4% margin to a 12% margin. I wish we could say that could all happen with drones. I think there's more to it than that, but we do see that reducing this inefficiency is a huge way to gain, really to just become more profitable as a builder. So back to this item about the maturity of drones in construction. We've seen, again, having been in the industry for some time, Skycatch was founded in 2013, and we recently celebrated our 6-year anniversary. What we've really found is that the construction industry has become really the leader on using drones for commercial purposes. Now, this is a 2018 market research presented by Skylogic Research, and we can see here that significant portions of the market, if you look at commercial drone use overall, significant portions of that market are related to construction. The disciplines related to construction, right? We see survey and mapping, asset and infrastructure inspection, real estate, and then construction and building design. So in summary, these are 32, basically a third of all commercial drone use is happening in a construction-related discipline. So if you're among the listeners who is in the construction industry and who's using drones today, obviously you're in very good company. If that's not the case, I think we have some great pointers, in the rest of this presentation to talk about, how to hit that low-hanging fruit. No matter what size or what phase of construction you're at on your project, there's a use case where you can start doing very valuable things in the project straight away. So I'll keep it very high level, and Skycatch, we spent a lot of time talking about accuracy, RTK, surveying, and things like this. But at the end of the day, what we actually see is that they're fairly straightforward concepts that we apply drone data to on construction projects, and that's where our users find some of the most value. So if I think about our users, in the E&R top 20, and if you're a smaller firm, these same principles apply to you. But the number one really best practice for getting started and finding value in drones in construction is going to be maintaining that common operating picture. Almost all of our construction users are flying about once a week, less often, sometimes once every other week, and then really complex, really high value, and really high visibility projects. Some of them are flying daily. So we have there are star users out there who are really pushing what they can do with drone data, just giving map updates, right? So that all the parties who are involved, whether it's an owner's rep, if it's a superintendent, if it's a subcontractor, just fully documenting what's on the site, the exact state of the site, and then managing the change on a day-to-day basis. That's something that is a closed loop sort of management practice that is absolutely one of the top value use cases. So for all the builders out there, for the people who are thinking about how to get started, using drones, if you own a drone and you're maybe doing photo, video updates, think about this. Think about bringing that photo data, that video data, into a more quantitative space, and then creating these map updates. So again, I think that's really number one use case we see in drone data in construction. These regular map updates to keep everybody on the same page as to the state of the site, what the plan is, and then sharing that with the stakeholders. Next is going to be quantifiable accountability, right? There's a real power to going from just videos and photos on job sites to making 2D and 3D maps, and the primary difference is that it's measurable. So bringing modeling your site in 2D and 3D, and then doing so on a regular basis, it allows you to quantify the changes that are happening on site, right? It could be earth being moved. It could be number of feet of piping or utilities being installed in the ground. It could be things like barriers that are being set up, scaffolding, temporary works. By collecting data on site regularly, and then doing that with a system like Skycatch, which gives you a very accurate, quantifiable number to the exact work that was done, this allows you to manage your subcontractors much more effectively from a pay application perspective. So, we all know subcontractors that get paid on time, will always reward the GCs that they're working for. And we see that this is really a two-way street, right? So GCs can have a great sort of built-in audit process by modeling the site frequently and then bringing that into that quantifiable space. So again, regular site mapping, bringing that those photos and video into a 2D and 3D model. It lets you measure it, it lets you control it, and then it lets you understand really the financials of what's happening on the site. So that's something that's a bit backward looking, right? We want to know what happened in the past and whether that's happening according to plan. A really powerful use case that we see is 4D planning. So there are tools out there, Navisworks and Synchro are two that I can think of, that allow builders to basically take a design from the architect and break it down into very specific steps on exactly how a project is going to unfold. And I think that the concept is very powerful. And if you're I'm sure a lot of our listeners are already familiar with 4D BIM techniques. Now, the thing about that we've seen that really adds a significant amount of value and really of foresight to the planning is bringing in your regular drone maps and models into these 4D tools. Or even if you have basic drawings, just logistics plans for things that will be happening in the weeks and months ahead. You're never going to capture in your planning phase all of the details that are contained on site for your, let's say, 1 week or 1 month look ahead. For example, you may have a subcontractor who needed to bring some extra equipment on site, and it's stored in a shipping container, right next to the rest of the shipping containers where the subcontractors store their stuff. Well, you may need to get a concrete truck on site. You may need to bring a crane on site, and so just understanding what it's going to take to say bring that crane in, make a temporary entrance, just to basically model that out. If you didn't have the site data, you wouldn't know that it's very unlikely in your planning that you would have modeled this sort of temporary stuff that was left behind. So we're going to show some examples of this in a couple of slides. But again, bringing that drone data into your 4D planning process, it allows you to start your week, look at your plan, and then identify things that don't line up with the plan, so that when the time comes to do the work, you're not stuck waiting to move things out of the way. You can have a logistics plan that's fully comprehensive and ready to execute. So again, I think it'll be valuable for really everybody to see that there's opportunities to gain value from drones in every phase of a construction project. And sort of very roughly here, I've got design and pre-construction, demolition, site prep, utilities, foundation, structural, facade, landscaping, and closeout. These are just some very high-level groups, and I hope for the GCs who are listening, that they're participating in probably every one of these phases. And then certainly we're going to have subcontractors who are more focused in some of these phases. But our users really we've seen a number of billion-dollar-plus projects and small projects go from cradle to grave using drone data and finding value in each place. So whether you're using Skycatch today or whether you want to or are thinking about it, I think these are things that you can take away back to your companies and say, okay, these are the top items that we want to make sure that we're getting full utilization and full value out of our drone program. And by the way, Skycatch is going to share this as a resource to all of our listeners out there, just as kind of a bit of a clearinghouse. How can I make sure that I'm getting full value out of my drone program? But yeah, let's talk about Precon, right? So documenting the full state of the site. I think for everybody who's in a lot of the people who are listening, who are in the construction industry, at one time they were site engineers, right? Site engineers just walking the site, taking pictures of everything to make sure that the owner doesn't hold you accountable for damage. Let's say that happened that happened before the construction process started. So we've got a number of big projects that are in this phase right now. Basically, the drone is being used to create totally comprehensive documentation of the starting state of the site, and that's a valuable insurance policy. There we're saving money not just on the field work, but also just saving money on lawyers down the road, right? Again, that touches on that common operating picture idea. Same with vegetation, right? Now demolition monitoring. We know that demolition is one of the dirtiest phases of construction. There's a lot of environmental regulations that we've got to follow. Is my demolition subcontractor, are they enacting proper dust control procedures, right? Daily drone scan will very easily allow you to audit whether this is happening. And with a system like Skycatch, it can be flown on site, and then whether you're you can be in a different city or a different country as your project, and you can log into our portal and then check what's going on the site remotely. Another good one is off-haul volume calculations, right? After your building gets the existing structure gets demolished and needs to be hauled off, you can have a very accurate bid. You can understand the bids as they come in for those off-haul, bringing that material off-site. And then again, environmental compliance, right? You can show if you're collecting drone data regularly, it's a passive way to show that all the applicable regulations are being followed. So now construction begins, right? We'll talk about site prep. Earthwork bid evaluation is drones and earthworks are just a slam dunk use case. I think I'm sure a lot of our users in construction are either doing this today or thinking about it. If you're a GC, you can understand exactly the amount of earth that needs to be moved, and you can look at how competitive your subcontractors' bids are. If you are, say, an earth moving subcontractor, you can bid more actively and more competitively because you have a better understanding of what's going to happen on the site in a quantitative manner, right? No more shoot from the hip, kind of eyeball decisions. Now you can really measure what's got to happen. So, think about if you're an earth mover and you're not using drones to do 3D modeling now, your competitor down the road may be doing that, right? So again, bidding accurately, bidding competitively, and making sure you make money on all your jobs. It's very straightforward when using drone data in the site prep phase. So after we've done our clearing and grubbing, we've done our site prep. Often the next thing that happens is utilities are going in the ground. Now anybody who's done rework on a site knows that as-built of what's in the ground, in the past have been sort of of really varying quality. One of the huge advantages of using drones, again, it's a passive method of data collection. We just fly the drone over the site. We're not walking the site. We're not bringing laser scanners or extra surveyors onto the site. So we're keeping a very high level of safety. Documenting in-ground utilities is another top use case after site prep. So again, just know what gets put in the ground each time, and we can do this with very high degree of accuracy. And in fact, we have some customers now who have replaced survey of in-ground utilities with drone scanning. Now, foundation. A very interesting use case that an architect in Seattle brought to us was, well, look, if we're flying the drone every time over our concrete pours, we can save money on x-rays later on if we need to put a fitting or a stub up into the concrete. Huge savings there. I think this was a 40-story building, and they flew the drone over the concrete pours each time, and I think they saved $7,000 a floor. So that's something like $20,000 to $30,000 saved in a single use case alone, right? Document what's inside the slabs, document the quality of the rebar install, and then post-tensioning cables as you see fit. Now we go to this. So our foundation is poured, and we're starting to go vertical. Well, I'm sure I see a new video of a crane accident on YouTube or LinkedIn pretty much every week. A super valuable use case, again, and this ties into the 4D construction simulation bit, is planning your crane picks. The same would be true for, say, concrete pours, whether it's a level pour or an elevated pour. In both cases, basically blocking out, where the crane is going to go, what obstructions do they have, what's the swing radius, are they going to cover this, are they going to cover, are we going to be hanging heavy loads over the the construction trailer, right? Adding an extra measure of safety and an extra measure of security to your crane picks, again, a top use case for this phase, right? So now that we're going vertical, very, very valuable use case. Moving forward, right, so we've got the frame of our building up and facades beginning to go on. Pretty big benefits there, right? One of them is just having to go look at stuff. Very classic use case for drones. Not as quantitative as some of the other use cases that I talked about, like, say, earthwork calculations. But it's a huge time saver, right? You can see the image I'm showing in the upper right here on my slide is an inspection that was done of a tower crane from the ground, right? So in the past, when inspections of inspections of equipment at heights needed to happen, there's a lengthy lockout tagout process, potentially some temporary works like scaffolding that are involved, that could shut down a whole day of production, right? Now we can send the drone up in the air, do a brief inspection, and at least rule out some of the issues that we may be seeing that we were going to go up with a person for. So big safety improvement and big time improvement without having to put people on these high structures just to look at something. Same goes for facade inspection, right? We can check weather stripping and things like that on the outside. So great, the facades on the building. We've got a pretty campus going up, and the next step is landscaping. In the middle right, we see that we have irrigation piping being installed. This would have been according to a design that was hopefully informed by drone data used by the engineer. Looking at runoff and things like that. But watering reach, right? So if you're wanting to meet a certain LEED building standard, that's something where you can use this drone data just to say, okay, are my sprinklers going to reach areas X, Y, and Z? Can I take them out of certain areas, and then reduce that water consumption? And again, drainage, right? Once the mass earthwork is finished and you're beginning to put sod or whatever top cover is going on the area, doing a quick 3D map will allow you to look at potential risk areas for flooding, oversaturation, and just managing drainage on the site. So that's a bit of a sort of cradle to grave, super brief overview for the various project phases. Next, just general use cases that we see really on every project phase, right? Safety audit. Back to this idea of accountability. The drone is for general contractors. The drone is an extremely powerful accountability tool. Here we can see, we know our subcontractor who's installing these pads. He's got flagging over the enclosed areas, right, over these dugout areas. So again, a very easy way to do safety audits, make sure everything is operating according to spec. Another big one, is being a good neighbor with your local emergency responders, right? We know that the entrances on construction sites move around depending on the kind of work that's happening, and pretty much almost never does a construction entrance to a site correspond to the actual street address. So a really, I think, powerful use case that we've seen is for having general contractors go to their local emergency responders and say, look, if we ever have an issue on the site, this is how you get on. It's not the old entrance, and that's something that the greater community really appreciates. So this is something that I've kind of touched on in some of our past webinars, and we're going to cover this a bit more going on. But this is just a rubric that I consider of thinking about these different applications, right? Of the various applications that I just ran through, and we'll be distributing these slides afterwards for reference, right? So that you really can say, okay, am I getting everything I can out of my drone program? Some of the applications are fairly in depth, right? Things like earthwork calculation, quantity tracking, that definitely requires survey grade accuracy, and you want to have a very sort of high accuracy and quantitative understanding of what's happening on the site. For things like map updates, that's maybe not so much the case. As long as you can get a 2D map and put an overlay on it of your 1 week look ahead, that doesn't require as much accuracy. But with all the talk about GCPs and RTK, PPK that's in the industry, I think the point to really take home with this is using an RTK system allows you to hit all of these use cases, right? Everything that I talked about, it doesn't require any extra work, it doesn't require any extra ground survey, 80% reduced time in the field, no extra surveyors on site, and we're able to hit all of those use cases, right? So if you're new to the industry, if you're new to using drones on site, you're actually in a great position. The market's become very mature, and the hardware that's out there, RTK drones, Skycatch has been fielding an RTK drone for a number of years. We have the Explorer 1. We also are compatible with the DJI Phantom 4 and the upcoming Matrice 210 V2, which we're very excited about. Again, these are all systems that bring you basically every layer in this pyramid of applications, from the super high accuracy, high value quantitative use cases to the very simple visualizations. You can hit all of those with the same amount of effort with an RTK system. So a little bit more on that. I think we'll see, right, as over the coming year, as basically more of these RTK systems hit the market. We've got our Skycatch Edge 1 on-site base, which does processing in the field. A very powerful concept for people who just want to get the data, who want to make their projects better, and they don't really want to learn all the ins and outs of photogrammetry. We can deliver that data right on site. So making that super easy to use is really the next step. We'll see it. And again, what we're projecting for 2019 is this leapfrog effect, right? So for all the users out there who joined because they want to use drone data, but maybe are not using drone data today, our expectation would be that you may skip the whole GCP process and go straight to RTK data, knowing that it's significant time savings in the field and significant level of safety. So I think here we're gonna turn it over for the Q&A for folks who can chat in. Please feel free to drop some questions in here. I think Jackie will start and field the questions, and we're gonna take those over the next few minutes and probably end in about just about 5 minutes here. So with that, Jackie, we'd love to hear some questions from the audience. Definitely interested to hear what folks have to say about this.
Yeah, some of the questions that came in, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. How does the system perform in windy or overly cold conditions? Go ahead, Will.
Yeah, valid question, Jackie. I mean, construction happens, in every corner of the earth and in every climate. Wind and cold, those are both things that you have to consider when doing flight planning. If you've got a robust system like the Skycatch Explorer 1, we've tested it up to 25-mile-an-hour winds. You're gonna see reduced flight time. There are some considerations you should make when you're encountering reduced flight time, which is basically don't fly as far away from you as you would ordinarily. But again, know your limits. And again, you really want to know your system. So it's always good to establish good operating practices, understand the limits of your system, and for the pilots who are out there, just make your no-go decisions very clear. It's freezing, we got strong wind, the batteries won't perform as well. So it's a consideration, but again, Skycatch, we're operating on 6 continents, so we've got all the climates covered quite well.
So another question here is, how is the system able to replace ground control points?
Yeah, good question. So, very briefly, ground control points in drones, drone data are often set by surveyors. The surveyors are using different survey techniques, and RTK GPS is, one of the most common techniques for surveying anything on the ground. Skycatch has basically taken that RTK technology and put it on the drone. So actually, what I would recommend for the person who asked this question is, on our, if you go to skycatch.com/learn, our previous webinar, we actually pretty comprehensively covered how we replace GCPs. There are a lot of steps, but what we do is make it very easy for you, and we give you an integrated system. It's the drone, it's the base station, it's the processing, it's the reprojection, all of which we're kind of covering in other pieces of learning. So skycatch.com/learn, that will teach you a lot about how we do that.
So the last question is, well, there's a bunch around accuracy. So what is the accuracy of our system? So I'll just add to this before Will jumps in, is we have an extensive white paper at skycatch.com/accuracy that goes into detail about what kind of accuracy you can get. But Will, if you want to add on to that.
Yeah, good question. Love it. So the if we look at a number of the RTK systems out there, we kind of see that the maximum achievable accuracy is going to plateau down around 1 or 2 centimeters of error, right? So in fact, stay tuned to Skycatch. We're doing a number of short web series. Follow us on LinkedIn. You can follow us on Facebook or Twitter. We're actually going to do our upcoming piece is going to be about accuracy checking. There are a lot of ways to validate accuracy that get very specific. But from what we're seeing out there in the industry, Skycatch is able to achieve 2 to 3 centimeter accuracy, and the same is true for systems that are coming on the market now, like the Phantom 4 RTK, and that's actually quite close to what's achievable with a regular GPS on the ground RTK rover. So from all the indications that we're seeing, 2 to 3 centimeters, which is just under an inch. That's where most of the systems are achieving the absolute accuracy on a figure like that.
Sorry, so our last question, pros and cons for RTK versus PPK.
Oh, great question. Okay, very simply, the RTK systems are dependent upon a radio link, right? You've got a base. RTK and PPK, you have a base, you have a rover. The base is on the ground, and the rover is the drone. For an RTK system, you have a live understanding of the GPS quality, the accuracy that you're achieving, right? So the base is sending the RTK stream to the drone directly, and you're usually getting some kind of feedback that's saying, okay, yes, we've got an RTK fix, we've got 2 centimeter accuracy. The thing is, you're dependent upon that radio link, right? So if the radio link is not strong, there are environmental factors that can affect the accuracy. Also, I think on a direct comparison basis, RTK is slightly less accurate than PPK. With PPK, you've got your base that's on the ground, you've got your rover, and that's the drone up in the air. You do not get any live feedback as to whether the photos are being, let's say, corrected properly. In our experience, using the Skycatch Explore 1 Edge 1, we always get 100% PPK fix because the 2 bases are near each other. But there's less of an opportunity to identify a potential user error that may have occurred. So if you have a little bit less feedback as to whether the data will be accurate right away. So there are pros and cons to both. PPK tends to have a little bit better accuracy. If you are very confident in your processes, that's a good method to follow. If you want a bit more user feedback, then we would recommend an RTK workflow.
Awesome. Thanks, Will.
So yeah, thanks everybody for joining. Again, we're going to keep the webinar pretty brief today, 35 minutes. We saw some other great questions come in. How are we using ground control that can be accurate to local survey? Again, for Steve who asked that question, follow us on LinkedIn. In the next week or so, we're going to be doing a session, a topic on localization, right? So when you move away from GCP processes, localization is critical, and that's something that we're going to be addressing soon. So for everybody else, thank you for joining. Jackie, thanks so much for hosting. And again, we're excited to see the market maturing. We're excited to see these more advanced technologies hitting the market. So what I do recommend, follow Skycatch on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. We're going to be releasing a lot of information over the next coming months. So stay tuned to more, and we look forward to your participation in the future.
Thank you, everybody.